Welcome, folks. We are just about to get this party rolling. And how is everybody doing? Okay, let's see what we got here. We have ourselves, oh, wonderful, Ralph from Brooklyn. Ralph, it is wonderful to see you as always. And we have Jolana from Montreal. Welcome from Montreal. Lovely to see you here. Victor Stoll joined us earlier. Folks didn't know. And thank you for letting us know where you're from. As people start to roll in, definitely let us know where you are. It's one of my favorite features of this live stream is that we're here together. So let us know what's going on. What's shaking? How's your day today? Is it early where you are? Is it late where you are? We had some people from India recently, so that's like 8 p.m. Hello, Emily from Alabama. Welcome. It's good to see you here. I think this might be your first time on the stream, so welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Cool. So people are rolling in. We're going to be exploring joy as a trainable skill today. And we're also going to be starting, this is actually going to be starting, I think next week, we're going to roll out big areas that we're going to focus on. So we'll be focusing on things over the course of several weeks and maybe even several months. But I want to really talk about specific trainable skills. And so if you have ideas about what kind of specific skills you want to develop or work with, let us know. And also to let people know that we have 7 specific guided meditations, which are the core meditations we give to all of our brand new one-on-one students, all of our group meditation mentees. Hello from Finland. Oh, I can't tell if that's your name or if that's just a handle, and I'll butcher it. So I'll try because I am very happy you're here from Finland. Hepuli. That's probably a butchered name, but thank you so much for coming. Deborah from Los Angeles, welcome. Heike. Is it he or hi? Heike. My real name is Heike. Welcome from Finland. And Deborah from Los Angeles, welcome. I think this is both of your first times here, so welcome to the live stream. It's very lovely to have you. And we pride ourselves on having the friendliest chat on the internet. So please make each other feel welcome. If anyone has questions that I can't get to, sometimes they rush by too quickly, please feel free to answer questions. Sometimes if I'm talking about something, people will post a link to that thing in the chat, which is super awesome because people will, I'll talk about some essay that someone wrote or this kind of thing, and I have too many multitasking things happening at once already. So it's lovely when people do that, so thank you so much. So welcome, everyone. It's great to see you here. I suddenly realized that I have begun this live stream without any water whatsoever, so if folks will bear with me. Oh, it's Deb from Brooklyn. What's up? Wonderful. So folks will bear with me. Say hello to everyone in the chat, and I'm going to be back in just 1 second with some water. I'm back, folks. Did you miss me? Pardon me. I am happy to be here. It's funny, because of the delay in the live stream, I'm watching myself leave the live stream right now, so that's about how long the delay is. So it's good to see you back here again. As many of you may know, this is something I wanted to mention before we begin. We have a feature here on the live stream, which is a delight. It's a way to support the community. Oh, I realized I was a little exposed here, a little naked in the back. So pardon my crazy ways. We have a way of supporting the live stream, which is called Super Chat. In the chat, you'll notice that there's a little $sign. If you want to support the chat, or if you want to support the live stream, at any time you can give a donation. Donations can be in any amount. If you leave a comment with a donation, it stays up at the top for a little while. We just suggest that people don't do chats during the live stream during the meditation because I might miss them. And the first person who gives a live stream, gives a chat gets a high five from me. And the last person who does a super chat gets the plant named after them in that episode. So that will, if you are the last person, you will get you'll get it named after you. If you want to play a big trick on me, you can, after I start writing the person's name, you can start then, tricking me by putting in another one, and then I have to erase and all that stuff. So thank you so much for joining us. That's one way to support us. The other way is just by being here. Someone asked recently, they said, "Oh, I'm so sorry for sharing the stream before you shared it, or sharing a link to it, or etc." And I was like, not at all. That's a super sweet way to share this community and share time with you. So if you feel like letting anyone know that we exist, that's lovely too. Really, we just want to form a community of people who want to practice together, go deep together, and discover together. So like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be practicing using joy as a trainable skill. And we want to, I want to recognize personally that joy is not something that just simply happens, because often people say, I want to be happy, I want to feel more joy in my life. And it's, for me, it's to recognize that the real factor is, people often say the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And what I feel is that actually the grass is greener wherever you water it. So if you're watering this side of the fence, it's going to be greener. If you're watering the other side of the fence, it'll be greener. And the mind is built out of repetition. The brain is built out of neurons that fire together and that therefore wire together. And because of this, if we practice towards any specific direction, the mind will just tend in that direction. Now, of course, we're playing a bit of a numbers game, and if if we have done one thing for decades or years and years, and then suddenly we ask the mind to do something else, the mind is very obedient to some degree, and it's trained. So once it learns to do something, it takes a while to change that pattern. Hello, Lewis from the UK. Welcome. It's good to see you again. So once we train the mind in a certain direction, once we train the system in a direction, what ends up happening is that it has momentum in that direction. In Buddhism, they call that momentum karma. So it's basically the momentum of all of the previous moments. But the good news is that since we're playing a numbers game, 20 years of unconscious tending in one direction is, not nearly, you don't need 20 years of conscious redirection. You really only need a few years of conscious redirection to deconstruct something that has been, reinforced so many times. Conscious directing the mind is much more powerful and much more efficient than unconscious direction of the mind. So those are the general principles we have here. Hello, everyone. Okay, cool. So I'm very excited that folks are here. I'm very excited that we're getting to connect again. We keep commenting on how connected this feels, and it's just a sweet add-on that I didn't think would be part of the live stream, is actually feeling connected to folks. So that's really sweet. It's sweet for me because I teach a lot, and sometimes in certain formats you don't feel connected. I love the videos we make. They take a long time. They take months to make, and then it feels a little like we just throw them into the wind and nothing, we don't know. We see that lots of people watch them, but we don't know what happens. But this feels much more connected. So I appreciate you being here, and it's lovely. So, and I had one other question. Yes, that's what it was. If you don't want to let me know now, fine. If you want to let me know somewhere else. But we're going to be exploring larger themes over the course of weeks and months. And if you have any specific ideas, let us know. Feeling connected. I'm glad, Deborah. I feel connected too. I'm glad you're here. So we're going to be practicing, let's see, we have enough time today. We're going to be practicing for about 25 minutes. So what I'm going to encourage folks to do is find a way to hold the body still for the duration of the sit, but especially because this is a nurture positive practice, we're going to be nurturing our system towards joy. We don't want to lock ourselves in some position that will counter that impulse or that direction. But if you have impulses to move, this kind of thing, itch the body, move the hands kind of thing, see if you can ignore those as much as possible. The tendency of the body to fidget and move is the same tendency of the mind to fidget and search for things to pay attention to. So finding a way to hold the body still. Typically, posture-wise, this is done. Our friend Deb here from Brooklyn is a posture expert, so I wish she were able to give us a little posture guidance. Every time I'll give posture guidance and she'll say, "Oh, here's a detail, here's a detail." It's very helpful, I just want to say. So a quick little detail is that you're trying to use as few muscles as possible. The way to do that is to, some people will lie down. Otherwise, if you don't have any problems with the back or have any issues, you can typically sit either on a chair or on a cushion so that you're sitting at the edge so that your hips will rock forward. So the spine has a natural double-sided curve, has two curves in it, and the only way we can actually sit without having to force the spine upwards is to balance. And the key to getting that bottom curve is to have the hips rocked down. And if the hips start to rock up, the spine has to do this and it does its normal curves. Chairs are often shaped like this. So we're trying to get the hips to rock down so that the lower spine curves. So making sure the knees are lower than the hips is often really important. So wonderful. So we'll begin and finding that nice comfortable position wherever you are. I'm going to ring the bell 3 times and see if you can pay attention to the bell from beginning to end. This is one way to test to see what kind of mind we're arriving to this meditation with, what kind of momentum we're experiencing at this moment. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. We'll begin by sweeping through the body to be sure we're not holding any undue tension. So starting at the top of the head, relax the brow, relax the eyes, allow the face to go smooth, relax the back of the tongue, and let the jaw go slack. Relax the neck and the shoulders. Relaxing the right upper arm, the right elbow and forearm. Relaxing the right wrist. And deeply relaxing the right hand. And we can ask our body sensations this question. What would these sensations feel like if this right arm were far more relaxed than it is right now? Relaxing the left hand. Paying close attention to the tiny sensations in the hands, the tips of the fingers, the palms of the hands. Relaxing the left wrist and forearm. Elbow and upper arm. And relaxing the shoulders. And letting go of any attempt to control the breath, feeling the natural tightening and relaxing of the upper chest and upper back as the breath comes and goes. Relaxing the belly and the lower back. Relaxing the hips and the upper legs. The knees and calves. Relaxing the ankles and relaxing the feet. And then tuning into relaxation throughout the entire body. We're going to begin by observing the breath for a little while. So finding some place that we can detect the breath easily. The abdomen rising and falling or the tip of the nose are common areas. But wherever you can easily follow the breath. And we're going to pay attention to the subtle, tiny sensations of the breath. All the little micro sensations that make up the experience of any particular in or out breath. No matter what happens, seeing if we can kindly, gently come back to the sensation of the breath as continuously as possible. And if it's available, we can balance attention and awareness, or simply notice these subtle sensations. And if it's available, looking for the micro sensations, the tiny vibratory sensations that make up this experience of the breath. Now moving awareness to the edge of where you can detect the breath. If the breath is being detected at the tip of the nose, going out to the most subtle sensations of the breath, maybe in the face, maybe at the back of the nasal passage. Wherever we can detect the most subtle sensations of the breath. And now paying attention to similar sensations, similar subtle, light, effervescent sensations. I'm going to encourage you to add something. Don't make any changes until I give the signal. But we're going to engage in the world's most subtle smile. It's going to be so subtle that even someone looking at you couldn't tell that there's a difference. So when you're ready with as little muscle power as possible, allow the face to engage in this ultra subtle smile. And feel what that feels like. Feel what it feels like as you breathe. Is there any relationship to the breath and this subtle sensation? The less efforting you apply, the more subtlety you can notice. And at this point you may or may not notice this gentle, uplifting, effervescent sensation that's associated with the experience of the smile. If you don't notice it, no problem. Simply keep looking for subtle, vibratory sensations, teeny tiny sensations making up the sensations of the edge of the breath or the sensations of the smile. If you are noticing this light, uplifting quality, subtle, vibratory sensation related to the smile, you can ask the sensations, is this somehow related to joy? The emotional experience of joy. Being wary of mind answers. The mind will answer in words and images, and if we're asking the body, it will answer in body sensations. And if we can connect with this sensation, we can ask the rest of the body, what would it feel like if this sensation were lifting the body, were moving through in a light, effervescent way? If this emotion were touching every experience in the body now, what would that feel like? And the mind is very good at producing opposites. So you might notice different things come up that feel contradictory to the experience of joy in the body. And that's fine. Just letting those be. Seeing if you can pay attention to the experience of any joy in the body at all. If we detect any in the body, we can say the word joy in the mind as a label, if that helps. Or if we don't detect joy in the body, we can use the word rest to indicate low emotional intensity. Neither is better. Both are helpful. And if we notice that the mind is jittery, easily distracted, pulled to different sensations, lots of impulses to move the body, there's a way that this is similar or parallel to a kind of joy, an effervescence, a bubbliness in the body. And so seeing if we can allow ourselves to read these experiences in this way, it's a mind being buoyant, bubbly, interested, and bringing awareness back to the sensations of joy or effervescence in the body. And if we're enjoying anything, seeing if we can enjoy the fact that we are enjoying. If it feels supportive, we can expand the experience of the smile. We might even feel like the entire body is smiling, or that the smile is lifting up this light, effervescent energy in the body. And knowing if we're not detecting that, that's okay. We're simply detecting emotional peace, which is very valuable in itself. Now staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, and staying with the experience of joy or peace, eventually fixing the eyes on one point as they fully open. We'll end the formal practice when the bell goes silent. But this transition, this is the most important part of the practice. This is where we learn to bring this practice into our daily lives. And this moment is just like so many in our lives. We're sitting here with our eyes open like we do so often. The only difference being a willingness to pay attention to peace or joy. Okay, welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the world of open eyes. So this is my favorite part. This is where we begin to take a little bit of time to assess what was that like, what challenges did we have, what experiences were helpful and easy and fun, what was useful. And any questions or half questions we have. My absolute favorite are half questions. So if anyone has any questions or half questions, please let me know now in the chat. What we'll do is we'll go to those and I'll talk a little bit about my personal experience just now. But I would love to hear what folks are experiencing. Looks like today there's about a 5 or 7 second delay, so just know that there's a bit of a delay. And it's really important that we do get used to talking about our experience. This is something that I didn't have when I was growing up. We had books. That was basically it, books and friends. And as a teenager, as like a 13-year-old trying to learn this stuff, there wasn't a lot of guidance. So this is where we get to connect with that. So please let me know what's going on, and I'll be happy to help if I can. And in the meantime, we want to say thank you again to Ralph. Ralph was actually the person who gave the super chat to name our friendly plant Purple, who you may have met already. And it was in Purple's name, who Purple was here that day, which was last Wednesday. And that was very kind of you, Ralph. So thank you for that. Again, first super chat gets a triple high five for me, and the last super chat gets the plant named after you for the following live stream. Okay, Lewis says, very pleasant. Is the joy practice related to pleasure jhana in some way, i.e. focus on sukha? Yes, actually, it's exactly that. You are exactly picking up what we're talking about. Technically, it would be closer to focusing on piti, because the Pali word, and people might not be familiar with this word, piti, it has a few translations. One is rapture, one is joy. The one I like the most, that seems the most accurate to me, is glee, because there is something slightly superficial about it, especially once you get into the practices around cultivating emotions that are pleasant. It almost feels a little bit agitated and a little bit coarse. So at first it feels very pleasant because it's very gentle and sort of vibratory, that kind of thing. And looking for vibratory sensations in the body is an excellent way to do this. Look for pleasant vibratory sensations, and eventually the whole system starts to recognize that and put them everywhere in the body. And we can stabilize our attention on those vibratory sensations, and that's where we start talking about the area of jhana. Jhana is translated in many different ways, but most commonly, popularly, it's talked about as a kind of concentration practice, bringing the mind into a balance between wakefulness and restfulness, giving it something that it can stabilize on over time and creating a stability of mind that can then translate into being used for other types of meditation or used in it for its own means. So this is exactly in the realm of pleasure jhana. And this is actually how I first explored and experienced jhana, was paying attention to this very light, bubbly sensation. And I started to notice that it happens in all of these different experiences. I think it was the first time I noticed that I yawned. I was like, "Raw," like did a big yawn. And at the end of the yawn, I felt all this sort of vibratory quality going through the body. And I was like, that's interesting. And I started to notice that each time the body kind of stretches, there's this bubbliness that happens. So I noticed it on the end of the in-breath, and then on the end of the out-breath. And then I started noticing it all over, and then you can eventually notice it everywhere in the body. I will give one warning, though, that if you start to notice a sensation, it can start to concentrate in certain areas. I realized I first noticed it in my hands, and people who've known me for a while know that I talk about what are the sensations in your hands a lot. It's a nice way to just practice throughout the day. What do my hands feel like? It's a very quick tactile experience because we know what hands feel like. So I was paying attention to my hands and noticed this vibratory quality, and it started to get more and more intense. And I was like, this is great. I must be really getting somewhere because it's getting more and more intense. And it would be in my hands and all of my arms. And I would sit there, and it felt like I was like, holding on to a rocket ship or something. And eventually it was so intense, and I'd be sitting there and be like, this must be really great. I'm getting somewhere. It would feel like I was being electrocuted. It was so strong. It was like I couldn't help but like want to like shake my hands or this kind of thing. It still kind of wakes me up sometimes at night. But I talked to a person who's a jhana master. His name is, who's the guy? The very popular Lee Brasington. And I emailed him, and he's very friendly, got back to me, and he said, what you're experiencing is called gross PT, gross sort of that vibratory energy. So before it gets that intense and it gets collected in one area, you need to spread it out all throughout the body, which seemed like a weird instruction. Before it happens, make sure it's spread everywhere, but it actually works. And I stopped having that experience because I learned how to allow it to be more open, having a larger awareness and letting it float into areas of the body. Also weirdly, sorry, and I'm going on a total rant here, that was when I realized I could move energy in my body, which I'm very skeptical about as a concept. Like, oh, you can move energies in the body. But it was actually very tactile. I would have this sort of tingly energy in my hands and arms. It would be very intense. And if I put awareness like in my arm next to it and just said, yes, I'm feeling it there, sort of told the mind that I'm feeling it there, even if I wasn't, it would slowly move and migrate over. And I could actually move it in the body and say, pick an area where it wasn't, and then pay attention to both of these together, and it would tend to migrate over there and thin out. So it was less intense in my hands and arms and more sort of overall over my entire experience, which then I could hold all of that together. And that's where you start to get into the jhanic material. Anyway, total tirade. But hopefully that was mildly interesting or helpful or fun. We have another note here from Lewis. I felt, it felt very effervescent and bubbly, but also was aware that it was being generated by a very subtle, in a very subtle, tense way. That's exactly it, is that at first it feels very relieving, and then eventually it feels like too much efforting. And then from jhanic perspective, again, we're getting very nerdy with the jhanas. You don't have to do the jhanas. From a jhanic perspective, you would then go to sukha, which is more subdued, the happiness, the sort of contentedness with that experience that's sort of below that, less intense. But I have a feeling this usually happens that when we're practicing, some people have challenges. So was there anyone who had this experience that it was challenging for, that it was difficult, or you didn't notice any joy or PT or any of this, and it was just sort of a little bit of a mess? So let me know if that's the case, and we'll happily talk about that. Lovely. We are, it's always funny because there is like a significant delay. It's like 10 seconds. So I'm like, well, no one's saying anything, so I will fill the space. But I often notice that when I'm speaking, other people are less likely to speak. So we'll take a moment here. So this practice, we're going to be exploring some more of this. The next couple of days, we're going to be exploring other ways of cultivating joy. We're going to be doing some trigger practice, and we're going to be doing some of the nurture. These are all nurture positive practices. And what I had as a thought, and I'm curious what people think about this, is a lot of people hear no Shinzen's material, but what I find is that often there's not guidance on just the fundamentals. Oh, Ralph, oh my goodness, thank you so much for the super chat. You're the first person to get a super chat, so you get this triple high five from me. I'm not sure which camera's on right now, so triple high five. Thank you for the super chat. That's very kind of you. And Ralph is known for getting his name on the plant, so we'll see what happens today. That side rant was very useful. Well, that is, Deborah, that's lovely to hear. I'm very happy it was useful. So I was mentioning that we're going to be doing these larger schemes, and I had a thought of beginning with just fundamentals of Shinzen system. I guide them in a different way, especially around see-in and some of those experiences. And feel in, I have more of an emphasis on detecting emotion. I'll use trigger practice more to get people to be able to detect emotion. So my thought was to do just fundamentals of Shinzen, and then maybe go into fundamentals of rest, because basically the premise is whenever I'm working with a one-on-one student, we begin with those skills and we say, we have a report from Ralph. Okay, so we begin with those skills. We just say, what is your acumen around these specific skills? And then the rest side is, can you notice the fine detail of those experiences, the real nuanced detail, even if something more predominant is happening? We can do this now, and I can whisper. Well, I don't want to do it because I feel like I could do it with sound. But so, for instance, can you pay attention to something that's still in the image, even though this is totally, predominant, right? Is there something that you can pay attention to, my one eye or something else, right? Even though there's something else totally predominant. And having that skill is extremely important, especially if we're trying to reduce stress, if we're trying to change the way we relate to the world, because the ability, Deborah, 501, Deborah, that's funny. Deborah donated 501. Thank you, Deborah. That's funny. It's like a bidding war. Who gets to be supportive? Can you notice some detail that is more subtle, even though there's something predominant? Because the thing that's happening in our lives so often, there's some predominant sensation, some stress, some annoyance, and so much is actually subtle and neutral and free. Actually, so much of our sensation is totally neutral. So, well, we'll see who gets the prices right. We'll give a score at the end. Maybe we'll do that as a game, as the prices are right. To be able to notice something subtle is actually really powerful and really transformative. So that's what I have to say about that. So any other reports or questions, please feel free to fire those over now. If people don't know what's happening in the chat, Ralph gave $5 as a super chat, and Deb gave 501, and so it's we're seeing it as a kind of little micro bidding war here. Emily, and I wish I could remember where everyone's from. Emily is coming from somewhere that is not Brooklyn. She says, I was feeling a little grumpy this morning and had a barking dog in the background and had a hard time generating joy, but the direction to focus on the really subtle breath sensations helped. Well, I'm very glad. And it's also, once you start getting into what joy is as a body sensation, it's really simple. It's not actually a complex thing, and it's one of the easiest sensations to produce for most people. A lot of people have a hard time producing emotion, but joy is one of the easiest ones. And we'll do this tomorrow more specifically, but you can imagine, like, there's a bunch of little cute kids around you with balloons, and they're jumping up and down, and they have this sort of excitement that's really crazy, and you can feel the body-mind system getting more bubbly, and puppies and things, and the whole system will start to kind of get a little effervescent. Of course, we might suddenly get really annoyed at that or be frustrated with that level of activity, but that is the that's partially the frustrating side of joy. It's in a way it's like glee. It's superficial to some degree. But we also don't want to force ourselves too much to create something, where create the emotion. It's a really bad tactic. If, I don't know, some teachers do this, maybe they can do it well. It's bad for me to say, just create this emotion. It's going to be great. Because it's like, yeah, if I could do that, I would just create that emotion all the time and I'd be fine. So, in a sense, even if there's a kernel of this, subtlety in the sensation, or there's a kernel of joy, hang out with that, allow it to be there. Don't worry about clinging onto it. It's one of those things that might get crushed by just wanting it to be there. But this is an example of the dog is barking, ruff, loud. And over here, there's this very subtle sensation at the edge of the breath that maybe feels a little effervescent. The key is to train the mind over time to be able to just hang out with that sensation. It sounds like you did that pretty successfully. So thank you so much for letting us know how that was. Any other comments or questions before we say adieu until tomorrow, until we bid ourselves farewell? Do we bid ourselves farewell? Is that a thing that you do? I bid myself farewell. I don't think that's true, but I think you'd understand if I said that. We're close enough at this point that if I said I bid myself adieu, you would say, yeah, you're a weird guy, but I get it. Okay. So with the delay, I'm just going to assume that this is, we've reached the apex, the exciting climax of our meditation. The people who stuck around really got the good stuff. The other question I have is, here we have one from Chloe coming in. Couldn't we just construct the emotion anytime? Chloe, if you are capable of that, then you are a rare bird. I'd say probably 30% of people are able to do that. They can actually just turn on emotion. And that is the case, that some people actually can. I feel like some people just practice that exclusively. Yes, and actually, if you're able to do that, you can actually practice that pretty consistently. One note, and this gets into sort of Dharma conflict or meditation conflict, is this question of, can you get insight from just producing something, just creating joy or something in the body without investigating it? And as a question that's ongoing, yes, the answer is you could produce that in the body all the time. You could actually have that be going constantly. One way to do that is to, and we'll probably be doing this week, is this sense of, in Hinduism, they talk a lot about the world being very playful. And you look around and just imagine that your environment right now is like your normal environment, but it's very playful. And look at all the colors and shapes, and it's sort of playing with you. And it's a way of framing your environment. This is basically, in a sense, it's entering the mandala, right? Which is, now I'm switching religions here. You're entering a world where it is teaching you how to wake up. So yes, we can do that. The thing is that you can't actually do mindfulness if you're just producing something without developing sensory clarity and equanimity. So, Emily, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you for your gift. If all stands, this plant will be named Emily as of tomorrow. So thank you so much. And we'll reveal who gets the price, who has the price right coming up soon. So it's a real test of my memory to be able to jump back and forth between the chat and this and remember what the heck I was talking about. But so we can develop practicing emotion consistently in that way, and I think that's very helpful. The issue that ends up happening is that once we stop producing the emotion, it'll disappear. So this also gets a little technical, but part of what we want to do is develop a mind state. And the mind state is a little bit more robust than a present moment emotion. A mind state is actually a full filter of the world. You may notice that, who was it? Oh, Emily was mentioning she felt a little grumpy today. Often when we're grumpy, everything can have this like color of grumpiness. It like, even the sound grumpy, and everything is sort of colored this way. So that's a mind state, and that's a little bit harder to develop, but it's possible. So wonderful to see everybody. Thank you all for coming. We have a new plant name, which is going to be Emily tomorrow. Hopefully everyone will be able to join us and meet our new plant. It'll be a totally different plant. It's not. I'm not just going to erase that and put Emily's name on it. I'm actually going to buy an identical plant that's named Emily. So that's where we're going to go from there. So thank you again, everyone. It's wonderful to see you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And let me know if you have any requests, things you want to work on, questions you have. Please feel free to email us. And I mentioned this at the beginning, but we have the 7 essential meditations, which we're actually going to be doing on the live stream too, available on our website, which is deepmindfulness.io. And if you look under audio and that kind of thing, actually, I should put the link. I'll paste the link right now. Oh my God, Deborah, you're winning the plant war. We're so sorry, Emily. I think it's possible that Deborah Bear has gotten the price right. So thank you so much, Deborah. That's very. Whoa, we have another one here from our friend whose name I failed to pronounce. Heike, thank you so much. This is a very fast race to see who's getting the plant named after them. Thank you, Heike. Some last minute contenders here. Thank you so much, everyone. It's really good to see you. And I will see you tomorrow. Please let me know again if you have any questions. And I will leave the download for the meditations, the guided meditations, in the chat box. And people can keep chatting after we end the live stream. So please feel free. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, folks. See you soon. Bye. Bye.